these two today are the two longer ones, each 140 kilometres in length. And as we know now, this is the third race meeting in a row where it is a full reverse grid. That means we have Marcus Marshall and Jason Richards off the front row. Jose Fernandez and Jamie Whincup, after his hassles yesterday and not finishing on the lead lap, he's in a very strong position in this one. So too Bargwanna. So too Dean Canto, who had terrible trouble yesterday. And if you missed race one last night after the AFL, we'll elaborate on that as we go on. And you can talk about the troubles as we go down the grid. Cameron Mcconville, another one, Neil.
Never any shortage of stories up and down the pit paddock. Cam Mcconville's had mechanical and electronic dramas all weekend. He also missed the scales in qualifying, which means automatic exclusion of your time. Just been in the wars throughout, but at least he was able to soldier on yesterday and get some points. Russell Ingall's had a battle on his hands all weekend, hasn't got a car set up that's working. Rick Kelly in race one, tangling with his brother Todd at turn one as he came out on cold tyres. Stephen Richards got a pretty good car. He lost a lot of time when the Kellys got together at turns 1 and 2. Mark Scaife's not happy with the performance of his car. They continue to make changes with that. There's some gearbox dramas with Todd Kelly in qualifying and the shootout. And this is the quick guys up the back, other than Paul Morris, Andrew Jones,
Fabian
Coulthard, because they respectively had dramas in race one, which meant they did not finish and they go rear of grid. That's the Mitsubishi Fuso starting grid. We're not far away from this reverse grid encounter where the points weighting is 50% of that of races 1 and 3. Greg?
Well, Russell Ingall started this round with a 14-point series lead, but as you mentioned, Neil, the Stone Brothers team has struggled to find a good front-to-rear balance with car one. Instead of rolling the car out of the transporter with a good base setup, the Caltex crew has been chasing the car, making wholesale changes in every session, even in race one, where Ingall finished 12th. That result has dropped him to 3rd in the series. He's now 10 behind new series leader Garth Tander.
You'd have to say race one yesterday was a disappointment for Jason Richards. He started in 3rd position, and during that race, the team, which is normally hovers around 3.5, 4-second pit stops, they made a 6-second pit stop. It put him back out in the race in a tough position. He had it coming together with Stephen Richards, damaged the front left steering arm in that car. Today, for the reverse grid, he'll have good pace. He starts in 2nd position.
Jason Wright's win yesterday was certainly welcome relief for Ford Performance Racing. Yesterday happened to be David Richards' birthday, and commercial director Rod Barrett rang David, who was having breakfast in Greece. The Acropolis Rally's on this weekend. He's also off to Le Mans because there's a practice and test session on for their Aston Martin program this weekend. And he said, mate, I couldn't get a better birthday present.
Ready to go for race 2. Marshall Richards, the front row. Marshall had a couple of goes at it. Whincup a strong start. Max Wilson forcing his way through on the inside. Marshall regains the lead. There must have been a slight hiccup there for Jason Richards. He follows the Glenford's Ford through turns 1 and 2.
Oh, and Paul Radisich has gone straight to the fence at turn 2. Elbowed out of the pack.
This is where caution needs to be applied. You don't want to get hustled and bustled out of it on lap 1 in this reverse grid race. Off goes one of the Gary Rogers machines.
Dean Canto, exit of turn 4. Sorry, I think it's Lee Holdsworth. My apologies. So he's been elbowed wide.
Good race yesterday. Look at the first of the WPS Fords. It's Bargwanna trying to make his way through. There's the front end damage on Radisic's TKR Commodore, and he's been in the wars all weekend.
And someone's been turned around on the exit there of turn 7. And
Murphy or Mcconville?
It's Greg Murphy.
Marcus Marshall leads the way for V8 Supercars' newest team, the Paul Cook Cruikshank Racing Glenford's AEG Ford. And he'll be enjoying this. I had a quick chat with Marcus this morning. Remember this time last year, he was in Champ Cars.
A bit of anger being expressed in the pack at the moment. Various people got together on that opening lap, which was to be fully expected.
Jason Richards applies the pressure, so too does Jamie Whincup. Marshall, Richards, Whincup, Bargwanna, a 2-time winner here at Winton. Inside move from Jason Richards in the Tasman Commodore, did it and did it easily.
Clean move up the inside.
Whincup wants a piece of the action. Wasn't quite close enough. Bargwanna's hustling for everything he can get. Report of a jump start to car 26, Jose Fernandez. new race leader.
1 minute 31.8 standing lap time for Marcus Marshall. Now that Jason Richards has been released, he'll be able to bolt away. That car was very quick yesterday. Unfortunately, got tangled up in 2 incidents in race 1. Now he needs to try and make amends with a good result in this one.
Yeah, the quick guys back here. There's damage on the front of one of those Dick Johnson Racing Falcons. I think it was Stephen Johnson. Heavy damage on the front of that.
And there's Paul Radisich limping into pit lane. We think that the issue up at turn 7. Here's the replay of the start. Whitcup tried to go around the outside. It was almost 3 wide at one point. They all settled back in. Marcus Marshall took a couple of stabs of the clutch to get the car away, but I think Jason Richards got too much wheel spin. Look to the middle of the pack though, and you see all of a sudden, there goes Paul Radisich straight into the tyre wall on the exit of turn 2. And is there any more clues in the Zinger replay here? Hard to work it out. It's not much better when you're in the car. It's extremely busy in the opening lap. Cars in and around.
Speaking with Dick Smart from Team Kiwi Racing earlier, and he said it's just been one of those weekends. And they're saying that's it.
Just going back to the incident at turn 7, we saw Greg Murphy pop out the other side backwards. I think for some reason there was nose-to-tail contact between Mark Scaife and Greg, but I think someone else was into the back of, oh dear, Courtney up the inside of Mcconville makes contact, and whack, smacked by Stephen Johnson. Very awkward up through turn 7.
The reverse grid race at Pukekohe was a nasty one. There was damage, lots of damage. We got away with it in Perth as Murphy comes through the middle past his teammate around the outside of Courtney. Courtney's now limping in that damage. Stone Brothers racing forward.
And just to expand, guys, on that point about Greg Murphy, and you mentioned Mark Scaife, there is some damage by the looks of it to the front of car 2. And I intercepted a radio transmission about that time, and Mark sounded pretty adamant. He said, "It was not me, it was not me."
Yeah, somebody hit him, but we don't know who it is. There's so much traffic up there. Let's have a look at the replay. Lee Holdsworth going off at turn 4. He rejoins. It was car number 18. So it was Will Davison, but why was it Jason Bright into the back of him? Look, it's very difficult to unravel. Need to see that one again, and no doubt that's what they'll do back at race control.
Now this is Stephen Johnson into James Courtney, and Cameron Mcconville up further up ahead. Whoa. And that's on board with Stephen Richards, the view from the Jack Daniels Commodore. And there is a very heavily damaged 17 Ford. Through goes his teammate, Will Davison. And here's another Zinger replay.
So James gets up the inside of Max, but then in doing so tags Cam Mcconville, and then there's nowhere to go for some of them. And Stephen Johnson has got Stephen Richards in behind him. They have a nose to tail. Here it is again from the other angle, up the inside. That was all quite clean. The problem was he couldn't pull it up in time. He's tagged Mcconville, so I'm sure that he'll get a penalty for that. And whack. There's Stephen Johnson with Stephen Richards. A lot of damage on the front of the number 7 car, so that's bad news for Stephen Richards, who ran well yesterday.
Compulsory pit window between laps 5 and 33 to make that stop for tyres as the DJR crew go to work. And it's not a pretty scene down there, is it? The first Rock Home Loans Ford. Darryl.
Well, Paul Radisich, you'd have to say down into turn 1 and 2 there, it gets pretty tight, but it's not been a great weekend for you at all.
No, it hasn't, Darryl. Just, I think it was one of the BOC cars, I think, on the side. We just touched slightly. The wheel was just broken the steering wheel because when we turned right, it just went straight ahead, and that was it. No, that was sort of the race that we tried to aim for to get something out of the weekend, but we couldn't even do that. So disappointing, but come back for the next one.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks so much.
Fastest lap of the race was the last lap for Jason Richards. 1:25.5, 2.6 second margin. 5.5's not too good. I'd say that he's chosen fairly scruffy tyres for this first segment of the race. Track temperature is a little cooler. Bathed in sunshine, not a lot of wind, but it'll be the afternoon race where the track conditions are likely to be faster for the cars.
It's been a pretty positive opening stanza for Russell Ingall, considering he started back in 17th. He now runs in 11. So 6 spots for Ingall. That will help him in his points chase. Not all that satisfied with the car this weekend. They've been chasing their tails, but so far so good. It's Jason Richards, Marcus Marshall, Jamie Wincup, Barguana, Canto, Luff, Bow, Brad Jones, Steve Owen, Max Wilson. That's the top 10.
Remember, these 2 races today are 140 kilometres, so the fuel requirement significantly greater than yesterday. A lot more weight in the car, and that's also adding to the laziness of the lap speed in this early phase of the race. 25.2 now for Jason Richards. Rick Kelly up the inside of Max Wilson. Marcus Marshall is still doing a good job here in second, racing very well with Jamie Wincup.
These 2 toll cars are flying though. Rick Kelly, Garth Tander, here they come. Because further back, Tander's right on Russell Ingall. There he is, just in the background of that shot, lining up to take a go at Max Wilson. Just in front of this man, Rick Kelly, is the Autobahn Commodore of Steve Owen, and I was talking with his team owner, Rod Nash, earlier. Very positive day. They're all pretty chuffed down there because it was a great day for Steve yesterday. Finished well and truly in the middle of the field, in fact 13th, so that was a very strong result.
Just down in pit lane with Stephen Johnson. The First Rock Home Loans Falcon has been consistently putting points in the bank all year. You can't afford this, Steve, can you?
No, it's a bit of a blow, Rusty. It's, you know, what do you do, mate? It's a pretty tough old race, the reverse grids. And
Walk us through what happened.
Professional race drivers just don't seem to be able to race without crashing into each other. That's the problem. And I just got hit from behind, and everyone in front was blocking the road and just got pushed straight into them. So that's, you know, I was trying to stay out of trouble, and yeah, couldn't do anything else, mate.
Thanks, Steve.
You heard Campbell say, work on him now. He's talking about Mark Winterbottom. While the tyres are cold, this has been one of Lowndes' fortes over the years, particularly at this track. It's been Craig's test track on occasions. He knows the personality of the place well. He's got to try and make a gain here, but look, he's understeered very wide at turn 3. Winterbottom's up to the task. He's driving his car squarely at the moment. We know the setup on that car is good. So terrific results in recent races. This is the sweeper at turn 5.
Just to update some of the pit stop action that is unfolding here, man, it is so busy in this Winton pit lane. Almost contact between Warren Luff as he exited the pit box for the Brightech team and the inbound Todd Kelly. Now, Todd, when he came into pit lane, was ahead of Craig Lowndes, but the Triple Eight team, a good job. They have leapfrogged the HRT Commodore in the pits.
And Tander is in while Rick Kelly stays out. Jason Richards leads by 5.5 seconds, and Will Davison in the lane as well.
Yep, you're right. Slow it down, slow it down.
I think they make a change.
Go, 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 go.
Oh, wheel off Will Davison's car. The right rear has fallen off. Drama at Dick Johnson Racing, and that car is stranded in pit lane.
Now, what effect does that have on other people's pit stops? They're going to have to trolley jack that car back. Actually, it's not in a really bad spot there.
You can still get around him, couldn't you? Still plenty of the pit lane.
They're going to actually you're going to try and pump it up on its air jacks to be able to put the wheel back on, as distinct from trolley jacking it back. Boys might be able to update us with more information on the spot.
Neil, we could see from the distance where it was in pit lane with Will, was that when the car went to leave pit lane, the left rear had been completed, but the man on the right rear still had the rattle gun on the nut as the car drove off, and they all just jumped out of the way, worrying that it was going to pull the gantry down as well.
Now, they'll be penalised for that as well, and it's also, as you could well see, then leaking hemorrhaging fluid out the front, so they need to just stop and take a breath here, make sure everything's safe.
Here comes Stephen Richards. Jason Barguana is in as well. Meanwhile, up front, things still the same. It's Richards, Jason, that is Marshall, Wincup, Canto and John Bow. Winterbottom's up to some pretty effective speed further down in the order, setting some very quick sector time. Seeing a replay what's happened here, one of the Fujitsu Fords. And it's Jose Fernandez out in the grass, on the outside of turn 11. So, some pretty frantic times. Stephen Richards' first lap back out after his compulsory stop, and he's got Garth Tander right on him. Here's Winterbottom, here's Lowndes. And in the order of things, you're talking 23rd, 24th, 25th, and Todd Kelly 26th, but that's because there is a string of cars yet to complete their mandatory stop.
Lee, you don't often hear long bits of radio chat in V8 Supercar. It's very short, very succinct between the driver and the engineer. But Greg Murphy has just given a very long analysis to his engineer, Steve Henderson, about the problems he's facing with car 51. He said he's got understeer mid-corner with that car and no traction on the exit. He does not sound happy with the Super Cheap Auto Commodore right now.
Tander's not happy either. He's not about to hang around for Stephen Richards to get up to speed. Tander muscling Richards then, trying to get by the Jack Daniels Commodore. Heavy damage on the front of Stephen's car. We saw him tangled in that earlier incident. This is Rick Kelly.
And Garth will try and crisscross here on exit. Great stop there for Rick. So he tries to sneak up the inside at 12, can't get it done.
And that's been
clear on pit entry. There's nobody coming out of pit entry.
I asked as we watched this great battle here, Richards has got the inside run on Tander. I asked Rick Kelly what happened yesterday right here at turn 1 as Tander goes one way then the other, trying every line to get past Stevie Richards. The outside into turn 3, it won't work.
And only 10 laps recorded of 46, and what race control will be looking at here is making sure that Stephen only moves one way. There's a little love bite on the approach to turn 5. They're not too keen on too much aggressive defence early in the race, and of course Stephen's car's a little disabled around the front. Neil, you're just slowing it down.
You raised the question about Garth Tander during his pit stop, and you wondered whether they had made a change to his car. Rob Crawford at the HSV dealer team tell me no changes, just tyres for Tander. He's happy right now.
Rick Kelly said yesterday, if you saw race 1 last night, the incident between he and his brother, they almost hit. He said, I literally didn't see him when I came out of pit lane, and there's been several reports of that this weekend.
Actually, Richo's view forward of the bonnet is going to be impeded there. Because the thing is, you can see clearly it's standing up massively, and someone's run wide down there at turn 10. You can see in the background, a little pinch of the front right brake from Stephen Richards. So there you go. And the camera, of course, is probably sitting in a better position than Richo. You can see the blending here from the pit lane. There's the yellow blend line in turn 1. There's been a lot of incidents here so far this weekend, but this will make it a little more difficult for Stephen to be able to sight the apexes at various corners.
Tander thought about it up the inside. He's lost ground 2 to Winterbottom. Here he comes. The Ford Performance Man is up in the order, and Craig Lowndes not too far behind either, and Todd Kelly looming.
Fastest lap of the race so far, Mark Winterbottom, FPR 1:24.9. He's 23rd. He's behind Garth Tander. There he is. He's got pace, but he's bottled up at the moment in this little battle, so that'll take a bit of pace away. Greg Murphy continues to give a complete corner-by-corner debrief to Steve Henderson as they try and figure out a way to get this car to perform a little better for race 3.
It was a top 10 result yesterday for Murph, but just when things looked to be going in a positive way, he was tangled up right here and turned around. So Jason Richards is still the race leader in this reverse grid race. Marcus Marshall second, and that's good time for him at the front of the field. Jamie Whitcomb comes out of 3rd place.
Nice work.
Russell Ingall is going to be brought in on this lap. Jason Richards' margin now, incidentally, is 8.3 seconds. Back to Marcus Marshall, still second. Dean Canto is 3rd. John Bowe, Brad Jones. They've been typically electing to run longer in these races. Russell Ingall 6th, Mark Scaife 7th, Paul Dumbrell, Jason Bright, then Andrew Jones.
Looking at yesterday's race winner, the Caterpillar Ford of Jason Bright, tucked in behind Paul Dumbrell, who picked up his first ever V8 Supercar podium yesterday.
Neil, you picked it with that battle to stand on here, pit wall, watching the last few laps. You mentioned that Campbell Little had said to Craig Lowndes when he was leaving the pit lane, now's your time to work on Mark Winterbottom. But Winterbottom had the faster car on cold tyres. But now, like you said, he's with Richards and Tander and bunched up. Lowndes now starting to find some pace. So they've made some adjustments to that car from yesterday because it went away late in the race. So today it may come strong late in the race.
And car number 18, Will Davison, as we suspected, penalised for the infringement in the pit lane when the right rear wheel parted company and race control have just issued an edict across the local area network and on the radio that that car will be excluded from the results at the end of this race.
An extra 40 kilometres today. Not only this race, but today's third race as well. Here's Marcus Marshall in the Glenfords Falcon, currently running second, but he is some 9 seconds behind race leader Jason Richards as Murphy is in.
Rears only for Greg. Any changes? Do they make any other changes there? It's a little hard to see.
BPS light off.
Those with the green lights still on indicate that they've not yet taken their pit stop. Compulsory stop for 2 tyres. Greg?
I was a little further down the lane, so I couldn't see what they did at Super Cheap Auto Racing, but it looked like a wholesale change in terms of the roll setter on Murphy's car. And at the other end, with the Stone Brothers team at pit exit, and I've spoken to Barry Hay, Russell Ingall's engineer. He says that Russell was getting held up in traffic for a little while. They've decided to not make their pit stop. They're holding it for a little bit longer, and they will make a change to car 1 again, just as they did in race 1 when Ingall pits.
Welcome back to Winton on a beautiful winter's day. You're looking at the scrap for second place. Marcus Marshall, fabulous time of racing at the front for him, albeit a reverse grid race, but it doesn't matter. He's learning all the more. Zinger replay. While we're away, this occurred.
They had to remove the sill panel off the HRT car, and I was surprised because they didn't have any gear there to help the process. They had to go back and get hammers and various odds and ends to try and yank it off, but burn away a lot of time in the process. And any possibility of a half-decent result in this race evaporated as they had to spend a lot of time getting this done.
There's some good progress being made by Mark Skate and the Holden Racing team, but that all evaporated right there. Back out and doing the best he can.
They knew they were removing the sill panel before the car came in. That's why I thought it was a little odd that there wasn't a few more tools at hand. Anyway, such is life.
This is race leader Jason Richards to the tune of 15 seconds. And that's just over Marcus Marshall. If you look to the next guy who has completed his compulsory stop, as Brad Jones does just that in Team BOC Ford, it's Bargwanna who's in 11th. There's quite a handy time gap between Jason Richards and Bargwanna. So things looking good for the Tasman Motorsport man. Now there was a significant change at the top of the championship order as a result of yesterday's race 1 win to Jason Bright, because Garth Tander leapfrogged up into the lead. There was a 24-point swing for Russell Ingall from 14 in front to now 10 behind the race leader, and Stephen Richards slotted himself nicely into second place.
However, if you focus on the round in isolation, the guy that obviously got the points on the board at the moment based on the race win yesterday and his current race position is Jason Bright. He's got 180 points. Paul Dumbrell's got 174. And then the next in the queue would be Craig Lowndes, 148. Good stop there, Jason Richards.
Looking to turn around some frustrations from yesterday. He was well and truly in the mix. He should have not have been starting on the front row of the grid today. He should have been in the back because he was a front runner yesterday, but only for a short period of time. He rejoins the Winton circuit and will still be at the front of this pack.
Well, there have been some bruised and battered cars in this race. Mark Skase was at least able to continue. Unfortunately, you couldn't, James Courtney. What happened in your incident?
Yeah, so we're coming through turn 5 and into 7. I just went up the inside of Max Wilson, I think it was, and we had a little bit of a rub, and Cam Mcconville was in front of him, and Cam had a bit of a lose, maybe from when Max and I had a little touch, and it was just blocking. I had nowhere to go, so I was just stationary on the circuit, and then I think Stevie Johnson ran into the back of me and bent our axle housing and everything, so we're out for this race.
The team, your guys, Paul Forgy and the Gelwin crew are working, as you say, on the rear of the car. Will it be right for the final race today?
Yeah, hopefully. I think we've got enough spares, and she should be good for this afternoon.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Well, I've managed to grab Larry Perkins down here on the pit wall. Larry, it's been a great weekend so far for Paul Dumbrell.
Oh, absolutely, that's right. And I'm looking at him now. Well, both our cars with bent bonnets from some altercation on those opening laps, and that's not helped them. Their top speed's considerably down. We're seeing that from our data, but they're both hanging in there, and they've got to get them home.
I guess it's just as well it's a short circuit. Aero-wise, it's, yeah, maybe only losing 5Ks, but if it was somewhere quicker, it hurt more.
That's very true. I wish they weren't bent, and I wish they weren't slow down the straight, but that's where they got to deal with it, and they are so far.
Thanks, Larry.
Russell Ingall is in.
Wait. Go.
And a pretty slick stop from Stone Brothers Racing. He rejoins the circuit, and compulsory pit stops are happening pretty thick and fast now. Marcus Marshall inherits the lead of this race from Paul Dumbrell, Jason Bright, Andrew Jones and Paul Morris. All are yet to stop. Jason Richards, who is 6th in the order, is the first man to complete those stops. Here he is in the SEW Euro Drive Commodore. Spoke with his race engineer, Wally Story, earlier today. It was kind of one of those shrugs and a raised eyebrows. Well, that happens. What happened to him yesterday? That's racing. After contact with Stephen Richards.
The car's working really well around here. You can see before when he came out after his stop, he just sat it up on the ripple strip at turn 1, and the car soaks those bumps nicely. Balance front to rear seems to be very good. It looks after its tyres. So they'll be a little bit disappointed that this will turn out to be one of those weekends where one has got away. And it's hard to engineer yourself into that position. Jason Bright is in. Andrew Jones has followed. He was lapping very quickly yesterday. I looked at the lap-by-lap times last night. Andrew Jones was running as quick as Jason Bright various segments of the race.
Here is Bright and the FPR team desperately seeking.
Mate, it's going to be close for Richo when you're at 110, mate. It's going to be close.
A round victory. It's going to be close with Richo is the call. Let's keep an eye on it. Where does Jason Bright re-enter the circuit in relation to Richards? There goes Richards. Richards will have the momentum. And he does into turn 1. And Bright will have Tander all over the back of him. Not for very long though. Garth should get the run out of turn 2. Bright moves across the defensive line. Almost contact between Tander and Bright.
Well, remember that Jason's got cold tyres, but they come up quickly on the rear.
Well, we saw how impatient Garth was with Stephen Richards. This will frustrate him even more.
There's quite a little battle brewing with this group. Look at the players in there. Jason Bright, Garth Tander, Mark Winterbottom, Craig Lowndes. That will develop into a pretty interesting battle as their cars work their tyres in different ways. Still a long way to run in this one, so he who looks after the throttle, looks after the rear tyres and has started with pretty reasonable car balance will have something to fight with at the back end. None of these guys are going to be inclined to give the other fella any room. Going to get by, you'll have to do it very carefully.
And it's been very handy work as Paul Dumbrell comes in. This will be interesting to see where Dumbrell rejoins the circuit in relation to these guys, because Dumbrell's been having a clear run and he should very well stay ahead of them. But Bright started behind Lowndes, Winterbottom and Tander. So that's been good work by the Cat Ford man. Dumbrell rejoins and should be in the higher position. No. And we'll have to slot back into this angry bunch.
Now he's also going to have to cover here. Winterbottom will try and sneak up the inside. I think he might have actually pulled this off. Awkward side by side here. Lowndes buys in as well. No, Paul's hung on. Good work.
Winterbottom will try and unsettle Paul Dumbrell on this opening lap after his stop. Lowndes will be lining up for a shot as well.
Very good work under extreme pressure then, Paul Dumbrell. He got sideways coming out of turn 2, but he didn't panic, held his ground.
And Neil, that's a very good point you make, because that's been the theme of the weekend as Winterbottom and Lowndes go side by side. Paul Dumbrell handling the pressure. He started on the front row for the first time ever yesterday. He had people like Craig Lowndes starting behind him, and he soaked up that pressure and went on with it to finish in a very fine 3rd place.
Remember yesterday, race 1, Lowndes, particularly in the latter 3rd or quarter of the race, was really battling for rear grip. Excited those rear tyres too much. Here's a replay of the aggravation down at turn 3. When Garth Tander was trying to get a move on the inside of Jason Bright. He couldn't get it done though. Marcus Marshall is the race leader. He's got a 19-second margin over Paul Morris. Jason Richards is next, then Jamie Whincup, Jason Bargwanna, Rick Kelly, Warren Luff, Dean Canto, Russell Ingall, Max Wilson. That's the top 10. This little group that we've been focusing on in the recent past, Stephen Richards, Jason Bright and so on, they're all 12 through 17.
And Whincup has elevated himself ahead of Jason Bargwanna. He was behind him for quite some time. So good work by the Better Electrical Ford driver.
Incidentally, Mark Scape, after that lengthy stop for the removal of the sill panel on the left-hand side of the cars, down in 25th position.
You're on board with Stephen Richards looking at Jason Bright. And Tander wasn't able to do anything about Richards. Can this man do anything? The team on a real high after yesterday's race win, and they have endured plenty. And finally some satisfaction with a victory.
200km/h approach there to turn 11. You can see the little bumps on the road. Paul Morris is taking his stop now. I asked him what happened yesterday in those last couple of corners. He said it was all me. He's not happy with the car this weekend, got a battle on his hands.
There has been a change in the track temperature. I've just had a word to Noel from the Dunlop team, and they've had the barometer out and checked it for us. It was 15 degrees ambient, 17 on track at the commencement of this race. It's now risen to 18 degrees ambient, 20 on track. Nice warm winter conditions here at Winton.
Well, there's plenty of people will be relieved to hear that the temperature is rising, albeit slightly, because it was freezing when we got here this morning. Someone's off, and that's one of the Jack Daniels cars. That was Paul Dumbrell.
Oh, not good for him. He's gone off on the sweeper. Did he do it on his own, or was he helped?
No, I think he went on his own, Neil.
Time, get back on the track and get your brake markers.
He's just gone in too quick. Very easy to do. Fortunately, he doesn't get buried out there in what normally at this time of the year is pretty wet, boggy conditions off turn 5. Interesting little battle that brews after these final pit stops are made. Lee with the compulsory pit stop window closing on lap 33. Marshall, Jason Richards, Jamie Whincup, Bargs, Warren Luff, Dean Canto and so on. They've yet to stop. But I'll be fascinated to see who does what in that next group. One of the messages that we heard before from Campbell Little to Craig Lowndes was, at the moment you are second in the round, so let's just flat orbit, let's just take it easy from here. And of course that goes against the grain for a lot of people who want to just see hardcore racing, but you've got to manage the weekends carefully. And oh, trouble at turn 2. And Stephen Richards.
And that's exactly where he got tangled up yesterday in the Kelly's issues.
Wow, there's a massive amount of rubbish on the road.
Well, and that has taken him out of a very strong position. Zinger replay.
Someone tagged him. Is it one of the Better Electric? No, it's Jason Bright. And they all scattered. Winterbottom. Now Lowndes got through on Winterbottom, and Andrew Jones ran with him. Oh, goodness me. So that's a huge whack in the back. So it's the second
Todd Kelly.
bit of contact with Todd Kelly that made all the difference there for Stephen Richards. So damage at both ends.
And the word is that Bright may have a puncture.
And this is looking both directions from the Stephen Richards car. Watch for the second contact.
And that's Todd Kelly. Whack into Stephen Richards. We've had another report too that Jason Bright has gone off the track. He's rejoined.
Well, Jason's just apologised. I'm sorry, I thought he was going to need me enough room.
Flat front right. Look at the Kelly car. So damage to both HRT Commodores in this second reverse grid race.
3 rounds in a row where fortune has not gone Todd Kelly's way.
A lot of damage to Todd Kelly's car as he passes me down pit lane the front right. Jason Bright in and out quite quickly. The front right hand tyre on that had a puncture.
More than a puncture on this thing, though. That's looks fairly terminal for car number 22.
Todd said coming into this round he wasn't bothered by being the underdog and needing to fight hard to come back.
Mate. If it's no good and we need to be able to fix it for the next race, it's your call, mate. You can see it from there.
That's Matthew Crawford just seeking advice from his crew. No, they're saying it's okay.
All right, mate.
It'll be interesting to see Jason Bright.
Cars coming in, mate. No, still rubbing too much, mate. Just caution around, keep out of the way, bloke. And we'll park in the garage.
Someone's getting a pit lane penalty with it.
I think it was more hope from the Holden Racing team that it wasn't going to rub there, but you could see that panel, Neil, just even as soon as it dropped off the jacks and started moving out of pit lane, there were small puffs of smoke, even with that low-speed exit from pit lane.
The reason for all the hesitation is I was trying to sort out all the radio messages. The pit lane.
Get the stewards, because that weed just pulled straight out into the middle of the track. I couldn't do anything about that. The guy's got
and we apologise about that. There's obviously high emotions.
And Stephen Richards has been given a stop-go penalty with a 10-second stationary component for a dangerous re-entry. And mechanical black flag, which I was about to say when it was all going on. I can't believe that race control will let the car wander around in that condition. So mechanical black flag for Todd Kelly. Massive damage to the front right corner. And the car's obviously in a dangerous condition there.
And how costly was it for Bright? Well, he was just outside the top 10. He's now in 24th position. Back on board with Lowndes. And he continues his battle and his arm wrestle with Garth Tander. They're both in very strong positions. 11th and 12th respectively, considering they started right back in the high 20s. So it's been a productive reverse grid race for these guys. Final 15 laps. And turn 2 has been a hot spot this weekend.
They're wanting a blocking, so you just keep your head about you.
Campbell Little talking to Craig Lowndes. Garth Tander is the one that's 3 thou off his front bumper.
Well, we've seen on a few occasions this year that Craig Lowndes is not afraid to do a bit of muscle work. We will watch what occurs between he and the tall HSV Commodore.
Always been wondering what might happen in the reverse grid race at this location for this very reason, that when you invert the field here with the quick cars at the back trying to find their way through, and the slow cars at Winton are slow cars, it's a track that exaggerates balance and grip issues. So if you've got a bad car here setup-wise, it can be amplified to the point where you really struggle. Stevens now served his time in jail and has been re-released. So he'll be frustrated because he'll be feeling a little punch drunk from the contact with Jason Bright, and as he's tried to gather his thoughts and come back on, whacked with Todd Kelly and then been penalised for that.
Final car to come in and complete the compulsory stop, Marcus Marshall. We showed you this round points graphic a short time ago, how dramatically it's changed. Bright's dropped from top of the tree to 4th. Lowndes is currently the round leader with Paul Dumbrell 2nd and Garth Tander 3rd. Look at these two guys. It's getting serious here. Down to turn 3. Lowndes is growing impatient.
And that's the reason why Campbell's just counselling Craig, because he's got that good point score situation. He doesn't need to burn it at this point. Down in 11th and 12th at the moment. Garth's not going to be in a hurry to make life easy for Craig.
Incidentally, those round points we just showed you as a reminder reflect the starting positions for the 3rd and final race coming up.
Subject to any steward's inquiry.
Which there have been a few of this weekend.
I reckon the bit of paper that's going to spit out of our machine shortly will be fairly lengthy.
There is frantic work going on down here in the HRT garage with the big hammers, you name it. They're Todd Kelly, you going to try and get back out there?
Yeah, well, we need to actually be classed as a finisher here to get a few points, but it's a bit of a shame there. He was cruising around to try and get through that reverse grid race, and this guy's had a spin and he just pulled straight out into the middle of the track, and I couldn't go anywhere, so a bit of a shame, but yeah, we just need to get the car back out there now.
He's 9th for the weekend at the moment. They go back to work with those dent pullers and the like, boys. They need to get out there and get some points for Todd Kelly.
Even more heartbreaking thing for Kelly, and Greg Murphy is out of his car as well.
He's been complaining on the radio about the engine condition. It's been slowing itself down as they've gone along and popping and backfiring and running on under throttle. Here goes Craig. He just got a call, Garth Tander, from Matt Nilsson, said we need to consolidate points. Do not do anything crazy. Let's just consolidate and don't get tangled up with Craig. If he's faster, let him go. And so he left him room down there at 3.
And look who's behind him. You mentioned that he had good pace yesterday. It's Andrew Jones in the Tasman Motorsport machine. He is running with Tander and Lowndes. No worries at all.
And he needs a little bit of sugar. It's been a tough start to the season for him. And his lap speed in the middle of the race yesterday was very strong. He's in position at the moment. Just made contact with Garth, though. He doesn't need to do too much of that. Right now, for him, it's about just achieving modest personal targets in his opening season with this team.
So pushing on, going hard. He's an Albury boy too. So this is home track territory. Time for a quick break. When we come back, we'll see if his teammate, Jason Richards, can hang on for the win. And life is good at the moment. Came off the back of a super test here recently and had some misfortune yesterday, but all going well now. Second place in this reverse grid race is Team Better Electrical's Jamie Whincup. And as you can see, he is all by himself. Absolutely no pressure there. There is a little bit more pressure on this man, though. The WPS Ford of Jason Barguana, who's third. He's got company with Warren Luff in the Fujitsu Ford, Dean Canto in the Gary Rogers machine. And someone who sadly is out of this race is Greg Murphy.
Yeah, he's not too happy about it, Lee. And Murph, you've got to say these are the weekends you don't really want to remember.
There's been a whole list of them, unfortunately, mate. Yeah, another engine drama. But I don't know what they're going to put in it because I think Cam's used them all up this weekend. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, disaster start. Scavey got into the back of us, turned us around at the beginning, and it didn't really get any better from there. So yeah, another shocker we can live to forget, hopefully.
I guess the biggest thing, is there any progress coming out of this weekend for Darwin? Is there anything you're learning about the car? Is it getting better in any way?
I could lie. I could lie. No, the car wasn't very good in that race either. We were really sort of struggling and not doing very good times. But the engine wasn't performing well either. I mean, it was starting to get slower and slower until I finally came in. So we've changed a lot this weekend, and you know, we just have to go and sort through it and see when we think it might have been at its best. But yeah, we're still in a bit of a dark hole at the moment, unfortunately.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Greg Murphy.
He sounds pretty decompressed, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
He's like, oh, well, at least I guess he's relaxed about it now. He was pretty wound up in the early part of the race.
On board with Russell Engel, who runs in 7th position. And Russell's doing what Russell does best, grabbing points while we were away, as the Zinger replay shows us. The Holden Racing team did a fabulous job to get Todd Kelly back out there and, importantly, grab some championship points, be classified a finisher.
To do that, he's got to complete a minimum of 75% of the race, and they're just trying to formulate a lap time for Todd at the moment where he can coast around without having to push too hard with the car in this condition just to get him home. He's 26th and the last runner, obviously, on the road. Here's Lowndes on Marcus Marshall up the inside. It's not a full-size 10 hole, it's only a size 7, but he still tries to run through there. A little bit of a tap.
Been a big learning year for Marcus Marshall, but he is enjoying it. It's vastly different to what he's done in the past. And look at this queue. Engel at the back of it, behind Rick Kelly, who's made good progress in this race also, to be in 6th position.
That would have given Cam a little bit of a heart murmur when he saw that, because Lowndes is in a great position at the moment.
Now, if we haven't detailed, I can't remember if we have or not, but the story about Dean Canto yesterday, it was quite crushing for him because he put in a solid performance. Gary Rogers Motorsport typically is very strong at this track. Canto was running in 9th. He had it there. It was all his. We were towards the end of the race. He ran over some debris on the track, heard quite a loud noise. The car felt a little funny, got to the next corner, which was turn 11. The rear end felt a little taily, so he thought, well, if there is a problem, I'm going to go for the pits straight away. They changed the right rear. In the end, there was nothing wrong with it as Luff is giving Bargwanna a big belting. And here comes Russell Ingall. Bargwanna's gone.
Well, what was all that about?
Wow.
Who was doing what to who then?
There was some pretty heavy contact, though. And Ingall was the big winner. The big winner out of that one. And Bargwanna not happy. Seeing a replay. 1, 2.
Yeah, I think
a few more to come. 3. They've gone wide by that stage. Dean Canto and Russell Ingall said, thanks, see ya.
Oh.
And that was a bit of hip and shoulder from Rick Kelly, rather.
Yeah, you need to see more angles to fully understand it. The initial Morse code was coming from Warren Love. Here it is here. 1, 2, and he may have been getting some help from behind, and that's 3. But then I think there's side-to-side contact here with Rick Kelly, and then Russell's there as well. Hard from that rearward roof shot to really figure out what's going on.
And they resume a couple of positions higher. So Rick Kelly now 4th, Russell Ingall is in 5th. Jason Richards, the race leader, the closing laps here at Winton. We've only got a handful to go, and Richards is doing it easily to the tune of 14.5 seconds over Whincup, and Canto now elevated to 3rd. Will we hear more of that? Stay tuned.
I think the whole pit lane's likely to just erupt in a brawl with itself, because everybody's been into somebody somewhere. I've never heard so many drivers on the radio post-incident talking about things that happened 10, 15, 20 laps ago. Lots of people unhappy out there at the moment.
I heard a few guys up and down pit lane over the weekend saying that Tiga, or they thought that Tiga was going to review the reverse grid after this round. Have you heard the same thing, or is that going to occur?
I haven't heard that, no. Oops.
Kelly defending.
It's at the back end of the race, so he's pretty much able to do that. He's got Russell now just applying a little more pressure to the rear bumper. The race director's view is that you can be defensive in the back end of the race. He won't define it in terms of percentages or laps. It'll be very much up to Tim Schenk and Colin Bond, the stewards, as to how much they tolerate in terms of being defensive. But what they're looking for is for a driver to move once, maybe once to the inside line to cover, but not to move back to the race line again. That's considered a double move and not on.
Last 3 laps. And the combined efforts of races 1 and 2 formulate the round points and the starting position as the WPS Ford of Jason Bargwanna is in after what has been a pretty good run for Bargs.
Open the tap bags, open the tap bags. Jamie, the thing won't steer, it won't turn one way. It's all jammed up, there's no power steering, there's nothing. Just sit tight, don't get out. Let us stick with Mecca repair.
He's about to get out of the car too, boys, by the looks of it. In fact, they're telling him to stay in there, so we may or may not be able to get a word with Jason Bargwanna. But as you heard him detail on the radio, they're bent steering or some sort of steering problem.
To update you on the guys who finished at the front of the field yesterday and have had to make their way through, we'll do that in just a sec.
Amazing lack of speed at this late stage of the race. They're in the high 26s now. Jason Richards, the leader, 26.8. So lots of walking wounded. Tyres have seen their best. Here he is exiting turn 10. 13.5 seconds though, so he can relax. Jamie Whincup is fractionally quicker than him at the moment, but he's home.
Let's hear from Bargwanna now.
Well, as Neil mentioned, there's more than a bit of tension in this pit lane, and the first person we're going to be able to talk to about this is Jason Bargwanna. What's your take on the incident?
Oh, look, Rusty, I don't know. I mean, I was just hit from behind at the right-hander, hit again in between the 2 corners, hit again at the left-hander. So from there, I just got pushed straight out of the way. So I don't know who was pushing who, but you know, we've obviously come off worst off.
That's hard luck in terms of the steering damage, but I guess the thing for you is it's been encouraging for you and Max in recent rounds. You've been just plugging away for this team, haven't you?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's always going to be a tough ask. You know, it was a fair effort to get these cars up and running at the start of the year. We're getting better all the time, but, you know, I think we're running up there somewhere, you know, pretty competitive. Sure, I was running out of rear tyres in the last 4 laps, but that's what this game's all about. But to be doing that, that's just crazy.
Hard luck, Jason.
Cheers.
And while Jason Richards leads this race, Craig Lowndes is the best of the bunch, who finished second yesterday, started 27th today, and Lowndes runs 9th, and that's why he leads the round points from Paul Dumbrell.
And subject to any post-race inquiries, this is the starting lineup for race 3, folks. So Jason Bright really, despite having a difficult race, kind of gets out of jail, really, because of that tremendous win yesterday and the fact that race 2, the reverse grid race, this one is only worth half points.
Well down the order, though, Bright is in 21st position after that contact with Stephen Richards and a flat front right.
Listen to the audio of the in-car shots there, Lee, and it's just always amazing. Even when you come to Winton to test, if you've been running on other tracks, you've really got to readjust yourself to the lack of speed. 130-odd K average speed. You're only at 100% throttle, about 1/3 of the lap. So the entire lap is a delicate balance of trying to guide a big heavy car with a lot of weight over the front around a place that doesn't offer a lot of grip. And if you overdrive around here, it's so easy to make a mistake. People have been making mistakes down here in the braking area at turn 1. They've been getting into nose-to-tail contact at the northern end of the circuit up at turns 7, 8 and 9. And pretty much, I'd say this is exactly what I expected.
Well, we are on our way home, and at the top of the show, I said we had a first-time V8 winner in Perth. Can we see if we can get another one? We have got another one. Jason Richards and Tasman Motorsport. Of course, Jason finished that fabulous second on the podium at Bathurst last year, but this is his first ever V8 race win. Reverse grid, normal grid, doesn't matter. Take it as you can get it. And they tested here, and Jason said before the race meeting it was nice to make a fast race car for Winton instead of trying to make a fast race car for somewhere else. It's worked, and he'll get some great championship points. And Tasman Motorsport and Jason Richards win at Winton.
Probably not the best one to win, but the win's a win.
And Wally's story sums it up. Jamie Whincup for 888 Race Engineering will grab second place.
Thank you for putting down. Thank you for putting down.
And good job, says Ludo Lacroix, his race engineer, and Dean Canto. This will be some consolation after missing out on the top 10 yesterday.
Good job.
Position 3, good job, is the call from Steve Kramer to Dean Canto. So, plenty to talk about after that one. The reverse grid has thrown up another punch-up. And they come on home. Rick Kelly in 4th, Ingle 5th, and Lowndes, the round leader, from 27th to 9th. A pretty handy effort. And lots of damage that needs repair, but for Russell Ingle.
Mate, also, by the way, Richo got a big drive-through. He finished just about last, so he's just nowhere in the points at all.
Barry Hay communicating to Russell Ingle. Guess what? He's done it again. He is in the points, Russell Ingle. 140 for the round. He's up there again, but not quite as high as this man, Craig Lowndes. He has never won a round at Winton Raceway. It could be his day.